Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. We are halfway through and I am excited to wrap up this Who Are You Serving series. Going through the generations. It's been really fun. Even outside of the videos, I've had conversations where people are like, well, what is that? Who made that up? I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. Somebody sat down and said, we're going to put generations in categories like this. So it is good though. I enjoy it because it really gives you kind of an idea of the area and the time and circumstances and situations that certain age groups grew up in and lived in. And to close out, I want to honor boomers or baby boomers and what is known as the silent generation. So, baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. So, they are 59 to 77. And then the silent generation, they were born between 1928 and 1945. So that puts them at 78 to 95. Again, be generous with the dates and the math. There could be different charts, but that's the overall general consensus and idea of categorizing those generations. And I appreciate these generations. You can separate them based on like the time they grew up in and the different things in history that happened, significant things that happened. You're talking about they went through everything from Great Depression and segregation, Jim Crow laws, modern day slavery. They have seen it all. And you're talking about some of our greats, some of our historic leaders, and you can start to rattle them off in your mind. These individuals were born during this time. And I think that is so important that we not only honor them in our history, but that we recognize the sacrifices that they made so that we could be Xers and millennials and Zers and think how we want to think, do what we want to do, say what we want to say. And yes, there is still a lot to be desired. We know that. So we are not getting into that on this video, but you have to say that those individuals, they sacrifice believing, knowing that they were doing it for a better future for those that would come after them. And I think like them, we have to take that motto and understand that what we're doing is not just for us. Even today, the strides we're making, the changes we want to see, starting within ourselves and working then externally this is for the generations beneath us, right? So that we can see more movement. And, there can be so many different thoughts and ideas about we can't trust politicians and we can't, think that they're going to change anything. We have to take it into our own hands. And I do agree that we cannot put all of our faith in politics and in the government system because it's set up and doing what it's been designed to do. And that's called go back and read your history books and really dive into whichever area you are most passionate about, and you will see that it's difficult to put faith in a system that is consistently failing. Even now, you can see that there is the America, hangs in the balance of opinions and decisions and, not wanting to cooperate with each other. So yes, we are living through that just like we just lived through our first major, at least I know my generation, pandemic, COVID-19. They've lived through those two, this silent generation and baby boomers. They have lived through others. And it's so interesting because I watched them and they remain calm. It didn't throw them. They didn't start, And of course, that may not be everyone, but for the most part, it's like we've lived through this before. We'll get through it. I know that's what it was in my household. And not only that, we have God on our side, if you are a believer. And that gave even more calmness in my house. It was just like, we do what we got to do, prepare to how we can prepare, and keep moving. And so those lessons, that temperament, I really admire and appreciate these two generations, because while it's not everyone, for the most part, a lot of them just are seasoned, and that comes with just experience, right? And so they do have a different way of thinking and rationalizing because of what they've been through. And yes, sometimes that can keep them stuck in their way. Sometimes they can be a little harsh in the way that they deal with people. But that is just, kind of those, for the most part. We won't get into what that means, but for the most part, they're not trying to hurt us. They're not trying to minimize, our thoughts and our feelings. They just think of things differently. And we have to give respect for that, because they've survived. They've been successful. Those that we look to and we know have done well and have paved the way and, have done great things. It's important that we don't minimize what they've done. And a lot of ways that we can do that, especially younger generations, is being disrespectful. That's a whole no-go. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is disrespect. Because I can disagree with someone and still honor them. I don't have to be rude. I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be cold, right? That don't mean I got to spend all my time. Because, yeah, there's some people who, they just want to be stuck in their ways. They want to be stuck. They don't want to hear. They don't want to listen. They don't want to change. It's like, I always tell my mom, you can teach an old dog new tricks. It may not be a fancy trick, but you can teach them. And it's just like, I say that because even though it's the opposite, so many people say you can't. It's like, no, I have to speak to, you can change. That's what life is all about. And it's important because in life, we need the older generation. They need us. Like, we have to work together because we all have purpose and things we have to do. And it's, if you can't take strength and wisdom and use them together, it's like, you have too much strength, you can bust some stuff up and dismantle things that have been in place and that are working. Versus if you only are using wisdom and you're not pushing forward and taking your information and really getting it out there, you're missing an opportunity as well. So we really have to learn how to work together. And to the silent and boomer generation, if any of you are watching this, you still have purpose. Like I said, we need you. You had things to say that are beneficial to us and to our lives. And I want to encourage you not to give up and just say, this generation won't listen. No, some of us will listen. And for those of us that may appear like we're not listening, we are. We just process different, just like you may process different. And so in respect to serving for leaders, we have to remember to challenge and include these two generations, boomers and silent generation. It's like, oh, I'm old. Okay, well, be old if you want to just stay there. But if you want to keep moving, if you want to keep giving, because you do have something to give, please don't be shy. Please share. Please have compassion and patience and humility to be able to not only to share your story, but to hear stories of younger generations so that you can give your wisdom because of the experience you have. Because that's what life is all about, is sharing with each other so that we can all continue to move forward. And again, as we said in the beginning of this video, help generations coming after us. So I have absolutely enjoyed this series. I've really, really enjoyed this. I I wanted to finish because I think it's so important to acknowledge that we all have a place and space in this world that should be honored, that should be recognized, acknowledged, and that we should take what we can from each generation, because there's always something to give and there's always something to receive, always something to learn and always something to teach. So thank you for hanging out with me in this series, and I will see you all in the next video.